everyone, happy Monday. Hope you've had a great weekend. This is our second week of our Where We Live unit, and today we'll be reading Iggy Peck Architect. Architect is one of our unit words, so with this story we're going to learn a little bit about what an architect does and explore some of the elements of a story. We'll be learning about the characters, the setting, the conflict, and the resolution. So after we read our story, we'll have some follow-up questions and start beginning to learn how to identify the elements of a story. So this book, Iggy Peck Architect, is written by Andrea Beatty and illustrated by David Roberts. So we know that the author is the person who writes the story, and the illustrator is the person who creates the images. Let's begin. Okay, so let's show you the inside cover. And so here we see, if you can see closely, the lines of the inside cover, like graph paper, right? And that's a big clue as to what architects do. And here are some other clues we see. Lots of measuring tools, right? So if we don't know what an architect does, looking for clues in the illustration is going to help us. Okay. Sorry, let me turn the camera a little bit. And let's get to an angle where you can see the pages as best we can. Okay. Young Iggy Peck is an architect and has been since he was 2, when he built a great tower in only an hour with nothing but nappies and glue. So we hear those special words. In here too, we hear those rhyming words. So let's see if we can identify the rhyming words as we read the story. So now he made a tower of diapers and glue. Okay. Good gracious, Ignatius, his mother exclaimed. That's the coolest thing I've ever seen. But her smile faded fast as a light wind blew past, and she realized those nappies weren't clean. Yikes. Ignatius, my son, what on earth have you done? That's disgusting and nasty. It stinks. But Iggy was gone. He was out on the lawn using dirt clods to build a great sphinx. So that's a sphinx. When Iggy was 3, his parents could see his unusual passion would stay. He built churches and chapels from peaches and apples and temples from modeling clay. At dinner one night, to his father's delight, Iggy got a bright gleam in his eye, and out on the porch built the St. Louis Arch from pancakes and coconut pie. So we know that Iggy loves to build, and if he was in a pre-K 4 classroom, he would spend lots of time in the block center, right? Dear Ig had it made until 2nd grade. Let's move in a little closer. When his teacher was Miss Lila Greer. On the very first day, she had this to say: "We do not talk of buildings in here." Uh-oh. Gothic or Romanesque, I couldn't care less about buildings, ancient or new. This would be a really good opportunity to put a sticky note and go back to use clues from the story to figure out what ancient means, right? What's the opposite of new? If you guessed old, you're right. So ancient is like another word for old. She said in her lecture about architecture that it had no place in grade 2. That might seem severe, but she was sincere. For when she was no more than 7, she'd had a great fright at a dizzying height in a building so tall it scraped heaven. And another one of our unit words is skyscraper. And that is a super, super, super tall building. On an architect's tour of the 95th floor, young Lila got lost from the group. So when Iggy's teacher was small, she got lost while touring a skyscraper. She was found 2 days later in a stuck elevator, eating cheese with a French circus troupe. After that day, it's quite safe to say she thought all building lovers were nuts. As a teacher, she taught that, above all, one ought to avoid them. No ifs, ands, or buts. As you might guess, it would cause Iggy stress to hear such terrible talk. But he didn't hear. He sat in the rear while building a castle of chalk. So even though Miss Lila Greer did not want anyone building in the classroom, he could not resist. You, Iggy Peck, your desk is a wreck. Tear down that castle right now. You will not build in here. Is that perfectly clear? Do you need to see Principal Howe? Uh-oh. Let's look at Iggy. How do you think he's feeling right about now? Look at his expression. No, ma'am, Iggy said. He lowered his head, and his heart sank down to the floor. With no chance to build, his interest was killed. Now second grade was a bore. So now Iggy doesn't think school's that much fun anymore because second graders are no longer allowed to build in Miss Lila Greer's class. After 12 long days that passed in a haze of reading, writing, and arithmetic, Miss Greer took the class to Blue River Pass for a hike and an old-fashioned picnic. They crossed an old trestle to a small island nestled in the heart of a burbling stream. But they no sooner passed than the footbridge collapsed and Miss Lila Greer started to scream. We're trapped here, oh my! Alas, kids, say goodbye. Her eyeballs rolled back in her head. She dropped to the ground with a vague groaning sound, luckily fainted. Look at Miss Lila Greer. She is just overcome with emotion. The bridge has collapsed. How are they going to get back? The class was amazed. They stood there quite dazed, uncertain of what they should do. But one bright young man was off hatching a plan, which started with Miss Lila's shoe. Soon each lad and lass there at Blue River Pass was working together as one. So the entire class is working together to try to solve this problem. And we're going to go back to that when we talk about the elements of the story. And when she came to, Miss Lila Greer knew that something quite brave was done. She looked in the air and saw hanging there a structure with cables and braces. And on the far side, beaming with pride, were 17 smiling young faces. they rebuilt the bridge. And look at them, they look very proud of their work. All those smiling faces. It all became clear to Miss Lila Greer as she crossed that bridge over the stream. There are worse things to do when you're in grade 2 than to spend your time building a dream. So we can look at Miss Lila Greer now, and we can see how her expression has changed also. How do we think she feels about building now? Now every week at Blue River Creek, elementary and second grade, all the school kids can hear, along with Ms. Greer, how the world's greatest buildings were made. The weekly guest speaker, in t-shirt and sneakers, talks of buildings from Rome to Quebec. Of course, he's the guy who builds towers from pie, that brilliant young man, Iggy Peck. Iggy Peck Architect. I love that story. So let's go back and we'll talk a little bit about the elements of a story. First, let's talk about the characters. You can talk about it at home with anyone who's watching the video with you. You can pause it. You can pause it during the story to think about it a little bit. We want to talk about the characters. Who is the book about? What are the names that we hear in the book? Who are the people doing the talking? That's characters. The setting. Where does the book take place? Some books have multiple settings. So you can talk about where the book starts, where it ends, and you would be correct. We want to talk about the conflict in the story. That's the problem in the story. What is the problem in the story? Who had the problem? And we talk about the resolution. Who solved the problem? So send that information to your teachers, and maybe next year you can have a little head start, because those are some of the things we talk about in kindergarten as well, the elements of a story. So once again, characters, who's the book about? Setting, where does the book take place? Problem, what's the problem in the story, and how is it solved? Also, a quick little story about architects, once again, unit word. I had a teacher a long time ago who had, I just kicked the table. I had a teacher a long time ago who had a son when he was young. He was about your age. He was in pre-K. During parent-teacher conferences, the teacher always complained that the child didn't want to do anything except build in the block center. He didn't want to try the other centers. He wanted to spend his whole day in the block center. The teacher had a problem with that. She wanted him to explore the classroom and try other things. But anyway, the young child grew up to become an architect, so that story always stuck with me. Doll, I'm filming. That story always stuck with me. The things that you like, keep working hard. You can be anything that you want to be, just like the little boy and just like Iggy Peck. Have a great day. See you soon.